mentioned D.A.R.E, I remember that too. Like you have like overweight cops come in with their donuts.
And they still do.
Fucking rabbit or you rabbit. And it's like, if you look like back then as
Like,
kids,
but you look addicted to that donut you keep showing in there.
from my perspective, like back then as a kid,
we looked up to him.
We unconsciously did. Okay, I guess that's all right. And even if we would rebel, we took on the idea that it wasn't good somewhere. And now it's like, wait a minute, that's not true.
In a world where everyone seems to have the answers, two people ask questions. Welcome to the Woo Woo Crew.
Negative energy, like a lot of negative energy. I know. And I'm 99% sure that's what I've had going on in my house.
You said egregore?
So it's like with an E. I got the book. I haven't read it all the way. I skimmed it. But yeah, E-G-R-E, egregore.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it's something to do with essentially like if there's enough yucky energy and it's intense, it can itself create its own like negative entity.
Where does the term come from?
I mean, I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know why it's called egregore. It's a weird name. It's definitely old. I'd have to. Well, I could crack open my book. That might help.
Well, how do you spell it?
E-G-R-E.
G-R-E.
And then like gore, G-O-R-E. Egregore.
Please tell me what you know of this word, Mr. Chat GPT.
Mr. Chat
GPT is going to tell me what this word means. Refers to a collective consciousness or group mind that emerges from shared thoughts, emotions, and intentions of a group of people. It is often associated with esoteric, occult, and mystical traditions. Origins come from the Greek word egregoros, meaning watcher or wakeful. It was adopted in Western esoteric traditions, particularly in French occultism in the 19th and 20th centuries. I'll do one more. Modern egregores, or however you say it, social media movements, fandoms, or internet subcultures can act as egregores with a collective identity and self-sustaining influence. And apparently, from a Jungian psychology, or Jungian, however you say it, psychology perspective, an egregore can be seen as a manifestation of the collective unconsciousness, much like an archetype.
Yeah. And that's how I kind of see everything, is just energy. It's the easiest way. We can have names.
Science says that that's a fact.
Yeah.
So there's that.
I know, but it's hard for people to understand, and I'm not sure why.
It is hard. It's
hard.
Like,
but you remember science, like atoms and the nucleus, and that's where it gets weird, is because physics at a macro level, up is down, right is left, or right is right, and then with quantum physics, anything is possible, and it just like doesn't make sense, and we don't understand, and then we find out that the black matter is not empty space. There's no such thing as empty space. That blew my mind, because I see the dark matter as like the feminine intelligence, the feminine energy, where as soon as our masculine action intention goes out, it uses that energy to create. So it's like you need the intention, you need the action, but you also have to have something to manifest from. And that's what I think empty space is. So everything all around you is usable energy.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. What is it? The same as an atom is 99% empty space, so is our known universe. And
yeah.
In terms of matter in the universe, it's equivalent. And the rest is quote unquote empty space.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like it's as above, so below in every single way. you know, our body is like a complete replica of the universe itself, or of Gaia for sure. You know, your blood cells are like the rivers and the streams, and it's just really cool. Except that we're like cancer on her right now, but you know.
Permission to go on a miniature tangent.
Oh, please, because I might have one as well.
I believe that this thought has been emerging in my mind for quite some time, and some of the things that you have said has brought it forth in this moment, and I feel like it'd be a good time to share it.
I would really, really love to hear it.
Part of me wonders, like, is that a channel that I'm supposed to just follow and like stick in the voice?
Yes,
You know what I mean?
because every single time I channel, it's either an Indian accent, British, or yeah, those are usually the two. I think it's your way for your psyche to distinguish, like, that's not me. But
Yeah,
you feel silly.
Did you by chance, and it's okay if you didn't, but did you by chance see the video I sent to you that I did?
Which one?
It was the truth about cannabis or the truth about weed or something.
No.
Okay.
Okay, because at first I was like, did he do this one? And it looked like someone else. I'm like, he didn't do this one.
Well, if you check it out, it was actually that same voice that emerged on a live.
Mm-hmm.
I let it go and I did the whole thing. I did like 13 minutes of it.
Dude, shut up.
And I went back and watched
13's a sacred number.
Well, it's in change or whatever, but like I went back and looked at it and listened to it, and I'm so fascinated by it. I keep going back and listening to it, and I said, like, welcome to today's live presentation or some shit, but I had no plan on doing a presentation. I hit live on TikTok, and then all of a sudden it happened, and then at the end I never looked at comments once.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Is I need to not
in the fucking zone, right? And at the end, I just hit end, and as soon as I ended it, I thought to myself, "This is a YouTube video," and so I went back and cut up the front and the end, but the bulk of it's the same, so it's on YouTube. But yeah, man, like there might be something there. I don't know.
That's trippy because I've been watching Psychedelica again on Gaia, and they had an entire, which I've watched that series in full multiple times. But it's one of those cool ones, you know, you're like doing stuff, it's kind of in the background. And so you'll hear something new each time. And there was an entire episode on cannabis and how good it is for you. Now, I knew it wasn't like, I was on the bandwagon of it's not bad for you. And yes, I know it has incredible medicinal benefits. I didn't know, like, it doesn't kill your brain cells, that it's actually it's referenced by the indigenous as the great balancer. So it neurologically balances our body so that we're like back into the correct flow.
I think that this is something that I look a lot into. I think that the best way to describe it is it's a neuro lubricant. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's the question of what is the mindset. So someone like yourself or someone like me,
always
mindful, we're engaged in nature, we have a relatively healthy, positive narrative about our life. We're not bitching and moaning. We're not using it to disconnect.
No, it doesn't mean I don't.
Okay.
Because especially recently with my hard times, and I noticed it and I got kind of down about it. I was like, dude, you're totally like escaping right now. Like, you can't do that.
Well, it's the fact that it is a psychedelic, a psychotropic, and a psychoactive complex pharmacology. Everybody's endocannabinoid, system is different, but there is definitely something to be said for it being able to increase executive function in the brain. It can, this
was all backed by science too. It wasn't just like made up. Like, it's for real.
But
because I was like, I thought it killed your brain cells.
It's like the aspect of mindset and setting is deeper than most people recognize.
100%. And I think it's true for any psychedelics. I would never put it in the category of psychedelics, but that's not say that you can't.
It's a mild psychedelic.
Well, to me, like, psychedelic is like seeing stuff. Like,
well, here's one for you. I just had this guy Christopher August on my podcast. He's a breath expert, and he's done a lot of plant medicine stuff too. And they lead a couple things. One of them is breathe with cannabis, but they have had experience with pairing, cannabis with dialed in breathing techniques. That like these breathing techniques alone take you somewhere, and you pair it with. He says like they're having like ayahuasca like experience.
100%
pairing cannabis with deep breathing techniques.
That is so true. And it's funny you said that, because I'm wondering, the whole point of me saying that was I wonder if this was like a weird collective like transference, because I had just watched the show recently again, and then so that was just like this whole epiphany. I'm like, oh my gosh, so any like shame that was left over was demolished because I'm like, I'm not, this is literally good for me, and it's not 20 Vicodin a day, so shut it.
I mean, literally, I mean, based on what I've looked at, if you go back over 100 years ago, like before 100 years ago or 120 or some shit, that there's all positive things to be reported about cannabis.
It's all up in the Bible. It's everywhere. Everyone
But
used
not
it.
only that, but like before Harry Anslinger, there was a lot of people that were doctors bringing it into Western culture. It was already in Eastern culture as for all of its medicinal benefits. But then Harry Anslinger comes along, Reefer Madness, and then all of a sudden everything changes because it was getting in the pocket of the big corporations. But if you go beyond or
Right.
before a century ago, nobody was saying that you're a pothead or that you're lazy. But when we take that into our fucking shit, it can have that effect.
Well, absolutely. Like on the commercials, it's like, this is a rain on drugs, and D.A.R.E said that it was a drug, and then it tells you that you're gonna run over a kid whenever you leave the. I'm sorry, but that one was kind of funny. Like they ran over a child. It was a commercial. They're leaving like a fast food restaurant, and I was like, well, that would never happen because your reaction time is so slow that they'd be like, can you please get out of the drive-through line before you ever hit the child? But I'm not saying that stuff doesn't happen. I know. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's never someone that's only high on weed.
The flattened person on the couch or whatever, you know.
That was yes, I forgot the deflated kid. He's deflated because his body's relaxed.
You mentioned D.A.R.E. I remember that too. Like you have like overweight cops come in with their donuts.
And they still do.
Fucking and it's like, if you look like back then as kids.
Like, but you look addicted to that donut you keep showing in there.
From my perspective, like back then as a kid, we
looked up to him.
We unconsciously did. Okay, I guess that's all right. And even if we would rebel, we took on the idea that it wasn't good somewhere. And now it's like, wait a minute, that's not true. And there's I talk about this shit all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll put a thing at the bottom for a link to my webpage that like really dives deep into the history and the science of the plant, and even what the current science shows us about its potentiality to be shown as a neurolubricant. I think there's already science that shows it, but it's expanding as we go along.
And it's beautiful because now there's even more. So we drink this stuff called mud water instead of coffee in the morning, and like whenever you purchase, they give a contribution to psychedelic research, and I love that. I love that it's like, you know, instead of just planting trees, which is still dope, we're finally getting to that point where it's like, hey, maybe people aren't crazy, maybe people need help, because I don't really like, there a lot of mental illness I just don't think is actually, from a shamanic perspective, it's like something happened, or you probably are hearing people because maybe you're a medium, but you told the wrong person or the wrong family member, and now, you know, you're not that, because I have a cousin who's schizophrenic, and I do know that I have to tread lightly. I don't understand it. I don't know how they diagnose it. I do know that it's a real thing. But shamanically, I feel like there's something that needs, like you could go in there and tweak something. There's something wrong with a disconnect between the spirit and the mind.
Well, I'll say, from my understanding and research, CHS is a possible outcome with cannabis. Psychosis can happen with cannabis, but
only if you were predisposed.
Right. That's what I was going. That's what
I was like, oh my god.
Psychosis or forms of schizophrenia, if in conjunction or in association with cannabis, it's not the cannabis. Can the cannabis bring it sooner than it would have
because of the stress? Yes.
Yeah, but it's not. There's no increase.
It didn't cause it.
The way that they show it is that there's no increased cases of psychosis when you look at the increased people using cannabis medicinally. There's no increase.
Right.
Know? And it's a bananas amount of people that are.
I know, those are the people that actually said, yes, I use it. You know, think of the countless that weren't part of that research study or whatever. So I don't know. Yeah. That was just my random take on that. But my freaking last night I watched a stupid short because I was watching YouTube videos. I've been making clay pots and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about Trump, and it was like, yay, we made over 500 arrests. And because they have ICE at my kid's school now.
Mm-hmm.
They sent an email and they were like, we're going to up the immigration, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, so you're really going to go to kids' schools and just gank them out of class? And it's just heartbreaking. But when he brought up, he was like, these are people that are convicts and have been convicted of things. And I'm like, wait, you mean like you? You mean exactly like you? It's just the kids in cages. I really didn't think it was going to be as bad this time. But I also know, like, I was talking with Chris about it, and he's the chaos necessary. Like, if we don't change, we're just going to stay stagnant and divided. And even though he's awful, in my personal opinion, and as a fact, in my personal opinion, it's just, I don't know. I think it's funny that he mentioned the cartel, and I'm like, I've told Chris before, I think the only reason that we have not legalized in Texas is because someone is getting paid more by the cartel than they would by making it legal. Otherwise, why would you not? If we're on the border of Mexico and the cartel's so scary, I mean, the cartel lost $30 million the first year that Colorado legalized. So maybe Mr. Abbott needs to stop taking money from the cartel is all I'm saying.
So this kind of takes me the direction of what I wanted to kind of talk about. From my perspective, anywhere and always that we find resistance to something,
oh yeah,
it's not about the thing.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it is and it isn't, because that's why there's like, I understand like having the resistance in general, like staying angry. And that was why I was like, nope, turning it off. I'm not going to let myself go to that place. But simultaneously, like, I want to speak on that topic. I want to educate. And it's not just sitting there downing Trump, but just being like, raise questions. Like, okay, if we're really worried about the cartel, why don't we legalize it? That would literally solve that problem.
Yeah. So here's the way I look at it. Like, one, there are plenty of people out there on both sides, day and night, fighting their perspective. I would say that there are plenty that share your perspective on it, right? So I look at, where am I best served in terms of serving the people? How can I best serve the people?
Right.
It's not by me sharing my opinion on any of that shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's not. The best way,
and
I
that's
can
cool
serve
for
people,
you, but like, I like to share my opinion. That's why I have a podcast.
No, but I'm saying, but like, from my opinion, the best way I can serve people is to tell them to do their best to not watch that shit and not allow it to frustrate it. Because anything that gets you frustrated is an example, an area where
taking my power. Yeah,
it's
I'm
an area
giving it
where
my
you can
power.
still grow. It's an area where you're still constricted.
100%. But that's always, because otherwise I'd be Buddha. But I did. It was an 8-minute. I didn't even finish it. I was like, because I'm enthralled. I'm watching it. It's the first bit of news that I've seen in so long. And I was like, you know what? Nope. And I immediately changed it because I felt fight or flight. I mean, I could feel my body slowly, like, having this physical reaction to the news. But it was, so that part was kind of cool, just feeling, because it's been so long. But recognizing, like, wow, like, it's that powerful. Like, all those, because that's also like, that could be my kid. It's a piece of paper that keeps them from getting taken away. So that kind of hits home a little different too. But I totally agree with what you're saying. If you don't want to feel angry 24/7, like, you literally shouldn't watch the news. Whether it's either way, like whether you like them or you not, it's just.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think, like, if you want to be informed, then read the news.
Right.
That's
true, because I was getting so irritated by the way they were talking.
There's literally no reason to ever listen to news, and that extends to content creators that talk about the news.
Yeah,
okay? Because they're pushing the.
Because you're still getting. Yeah, you're going to get that same energy.
If you want to stay informed, read the news.
Yes, and it's funny because Chris he gets that, like, Apple News thing, and he'll tell me sometimes, and I'm like, nah, no. Because it'll just start making me mad. And I'm like, oh, don't share. I don't want to hear it.
So I feel I gotta go here because we're a little bit limited on time today.
Oh yeah.
I feel compelled because I think it ties it all together, right? Like, my historical disconnect with the idea of metaphysical manifestation, your outer world reflects your inner world sort of deal was, okay, well, there's plenty of people in our reality that have already gone like super deep with the inner work, like Buddha, for instance, or whatever. And there's ones now living that are flirting with those same areas of, like, there are people that are full blown, liberated right now. So my analytical thought goes, well, if that's the case and they're here, why is there still terror in the world? Right? That's where my historical, train of thought goes. But I've recently shifted my perspective on it. I wanted to share it and get your thought on it, right? Because I think that a lot of us unconsciously feel that way, right?
Yeah.
It's like, all right, well, if it is working, then why the fuck is, yada yada. But the way I'm looking at it now I'm looking at it like, well, if everything is a reflection, and for all 8 billion people the same principles apply, then perhaps it's just about each individual, right? And it spreads out in the way it does, and then eventually all of the unconscious will be gone. The reason that it's still showing here is because people in this reality still have it. But there's also a shit ton of beautiful growth and liberation.
Well, yeah.
And holy shit happening at the same time. So what you tune to, what you focus on grows, sort of deal. But I think that it will result in peace and a state of Eden on this planet. Could it take a century or two? Who knows? But the ultimate thing here is once the majority are in this space. So does it apply? Yes. So my individual life, right, is now free from stress and free from clutter and free from shit that frustrates me. Things that are popping in just in alignment without me even trying. It's blowing my fucking mind, right? So from my perspective, it's like, yeah, it's working. Is there still terror in the world? Yes. That's why we're still focused on what fucking matters, which is our own individual sovereignty over our fucking thought. And the best way to secure that is to not watch the news.
Yes. Well, and eventually to be at a place where nothing changes your nervous system, no person from your past, no. But again, and I know that, and I'm not okay with like saying I'm staying here. It's always like followed with, that's something that I'm working on, because I don't want to be restricted, because for a long time I couldn't watch certain movies, listen to certain music, and I was able to shift that. But then it kind of went back again, and I'm like, okay, just take a step back, because it's the ebb and flow. And then, like you said, there's still the terror happening. But I think I think the different perspective that we forget is there's no such thing as good and bad. We made it up. We just have a preference.
That's the other thing. It's
like you were saying, resistance. That's why I'm like, I just need surrender tattooed right there, because I forget. It's so simple, but it's like complicated because it's so easy. You literally just choose to not feel like shit.
And that's why we can say literally anytime any resistance emerges, no matter what the fuck it is,
you got some work to do.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean don't run, right?
Yeah, right.
If you're in a situation like, fucking run or whatever. But when you get to where you're going, be like, okay, let me think about that reaction, and let me talk to myself about this. Let me
was it a reaction or a response? Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
That's the fucking recipe.
It really is. And yet the recipe still gets lost all the time. And I'm like, where is that thing? I tell you what.
Well, I'll tell you, it's my mission and purpose to push it as far as I can. Not from a place of trying to validate my own self, but because I reached a point where I recognize service first is what's most important.
Absolutely.
And that's it.
And that's not for everyone. For some people it's not, but like my soul feels like it's dying if I'm not doing service. I feel like I'm not, like I can't breathe. Like I'm just, I'm that guy. I'm the inflated, the deflated guy on the couch.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Well, so in another area of thought, just catching up. So I'm starting with a marketing group to help me with scaling. And, for the first 2 years of coaching, I've just relied off organic, people coming in. But I'm not pushing like when I first started, I was pushing the fear thing a little bit, because I was like, if weed's in your life and you think it's a problem, blah, blah, blah.
I know, but you don't realize, like, it's not like you were doing
like the message was good, but I don't do that shit anymore. So I'm not getting that kind of flow. So now I'm going to actually fuel a marketing team that's going to help me scale.
And I know you have to go, so we'll talk about it later. But I watched a random YouTube video had popped up when I had all my plant videos on, and it was, I mean, she laid it out for marketing, and it blew my mind because it's nothing I've heard of before.
Yeah.
But it
It's
was,
different than what we thought it was.
yeah. Well, no, it's just her technique, and
Yeah.
she makes millions of dollars selling these friggin' polymer clay charms. But she does brand outreach, and I was like, why have we not thought of that? Why have I not thought of that? You just reach out and give them free stuff or whatever and like let them know how this will benefit them, and then ask to be in their magazine, ask to be in this, ask to be in that. And she just reached out to all these people that weren't in her niche of little kids. And that's what made it even bigger. I was like, that is so smart. I need to start emailing people. I don't know what you get for free other than like merch shirts, but with shout outs, you know?
My first, like, well, this is my third, but it's the first. It's like a kind of like a company thing. So this is a plug unplanned for Viva Rays.
Yes.
They are blue blocker glasses. So it's in
Yeah.
alignment. It's in alignment with what I talk about, you know. So
I have some of those. The blue light.
and there's like you pull off depending on like what hello.
Those are really, really attractive, and I feel like you should wear them all the time.
Are you just fucking with me, or what do you think?
No, they're cool.
All right, well, let me try a different color then.
That's a different color?
I'm trying another one then.
I was like, wait, are you messing with me? Oh, okay. There we go. That's more normal. Except you do look like you just fell out of the 70s, but I like it.
Though. That's like, I feel like part of my energy
It's
is
nostalgic.
You know?
Weird. See, that's perfect. You just need your long bell bottoms.
So like each one, I think, and I haven't looked into it yet, but I'm supposed to make some videos for it or whatever, but
yeah,
one is for a different time and stuff like that.
So is it all the time?
You say what?
All the time, or just anytime you're using a device?
I think like when I talk about it, I'm going to talk about it for anybody that has a challenging time putting the phone down before bed. Like if you're working on that, like at least wear some blue blockers. You know what I mean?
I know. I gave the kids some even for TV, just because I feel like it keeps you from falling asleep.
Well, that's true too for watching TV or stuff. But like for me during the day, working on the computer, that's the other thing that I'm going to start using it for that.
So bad, yes, because like 100%, the fluorescent lights. Now that I'm never around them, they trigger anxiety. Like if I go to the grocery store and it's big fluorescent lights, not a fan.
This really was an unplanned scenario, but since I did talk about it, I'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah, might as well.
Want to try?
Might as well.
I don't have a review on them yet, though. But I vetted the company, and they seem legit. And I've talked to the owner a few times, and I think I'm going to have them on a podcast too, which is cool.
Heck yeah, do it! I love it. Well, so now I need some.
The brand thing. I think so many people get disconnected because the real story is the brand is just you. It's you.
I know. For like with the podcast, we're just. You get paid to be me. There's a song, Tony Jones.
And it's like, we just do because this is fun for us.
Right.
And then, things will happen. Is there benefit in making some strategy, like reaching out to some, hey, your brand is in line with our company. We don't mind talking about your stuff, that kind of thing. So.
And the other thing I was thinking about too was like that guest that we had and reaching out to big following people and being like, hey, you should be on our show. Not for that reason, but if you have a big following, then you must be interesting.
Yeah.
Not always, I guess. I don't watch a lot of TikTok.
I mean, like, if we, at some point, I presume we'll have like access to, it'll be hybrid where some of them will be like this and some of them we might be able to do like live as well. And maybe
that would be
maybe the live ones we could bring in like someone to where it's like more. I don't know. Like it worked when you and I did it with Nicole that one time, and like it's fine, but I don't know with like Zoom recording podcasts.
Yeah,
I feel like I don't know.
Oh, I forgot it was. Yeah, no, I forgot it was Zoom. I thought it was on here.
Or no, it was on here, but like that's what I'm saying, like Riverside or whatever, but virtual.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Podcast between two people makes sense. It flows, and I've listened to some that are 3.
Yeah, but then it's like too much.
I'm opposed to doing it, but like
especially if it's 2 film of always. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
in the future we could probably work something out where we do live ones like that. But yeah, I mean, if we find someone that's like, hey, it'd be fun to talk to that person, then
I
by
know
all
it'd be nice to like I wish we could do it in person, obviously, but I don't know. Like me and you, but different states. I don't know. I'll think on it. But I
means,
love that when you went live, it just happened. And because I almost did it. I saw someone at the park and they were like totally set up, didn't give a shit that they had like their lights and everything. And because I forget that's the world we live in now. No one looks twice. No one cares. And I used to get caught on my phone and I'm like, boo, they knew I was taking a selfie. And, like, but yeah, I'm excited. I
yeah,
love
I
that
would
you
love
were,
to hear
because
your
I
thoughts
100%
on that.
think you channeled. I'm so watching it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I would love to hear your thoughts on it because I know you're able to like kind of like tune in and
You
like
can tell just by the words. Yeah.
yeah. So, and, I mean, like, and I've obviously digested a lot of entertainment in the realm of comedy and voices and stuff, and I like to fuck with voices, and I do fuck with voices.
Same.
But, yeah, I don't know. There's something
But it
about
felt different. Yeah.
There's something about it.
Yeah, because like how often? I mean, you fuck with voices 24/7. How often do you say that? Like there was something to that one. You don't.
Well, I also think that like now that I'm further along, right? Like liberation, I'm more present with people. I'm more my authentic self. Like,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? And so if that's the case, then maybe I don't know. I thought about it before. It'd be funny if like I start out as this like in the beginning I was all rigid, like my coaching is based off of science, right? And it'd be funny if at some point all of a sudden I just turn into a channel and I start getting
I
on
know.
podcasts because I'm just like this country channel dude. That'd be
I
hilarious.
love it.
I
I
don't know
think
if I'd want to. I mean, I'll do whatever happens, but that'd be funny.
no, that I'm digging it. I love it. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's interesting. Or it's just a part of it, right? It's a part of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, 100%.
It's
I'm
a part
excited.
of
I
the
have.
whole ship.
That's right. I was
Mm-hmm.
looking. I have a new baby leaf uncurling. I'm just excited. I propagated one of my plants into like 14, and now I'm like, it's too much. It's too many plants, but I
Yeah,
love them.
yeah, yeah.
Is it,
So yeah, we'll definitely do a live one at some point. In my mind, I'm planning on having like an RV uh trip kind of cross
when?
kind of trip. Like
We're
it's
trying to plan something for next year for a national park for our big trip. We should like.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know when it's going to be. In my mind, I was thinking it might even be this year.
Oh yeah, I meant this summer.
Oh, okay. Okay, this summer?
Yeah,
Okay. Where are you guys going to go?
we haven't decided yet. I was
Okay.
thinking about like Zion. I'm just thinking of just different cool national parks that I want to hit up,
Yeah,
but we
so
haven't
I was
picked.
thinking about like there's a few different clients that I would love to like meet. It'd be cool to meet you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, just like travel around the country to meet people that I've met through creating content and coaching people. And just
I love it, and that in and of itself is a fantastic like segment that you could make.
well, I mean, I'll continue
Even
as
if
I am making
yeah.
making content, documenting my process.
Yeah, I love that. That's super fun. That's a
Yeah.
really cool idea.
So it's something I've always thought about, and I think it'd be cool.
No, I think that's perfect for you because I would love to do that. I can't. I mean, I could in theory, but
There ain't nothing you can't do.
ain't nothing. You just get called a bad mama. She just left her husband
But
and
it's all
children and just
perspective.
traveling around, sexing
Well,
everybody.
why not just pull the kids out of school and you guys work remote and travel the globe and
I've
sail
said that
boats
like
and
8
RVs
times.
and shit.
Edit it and post.
You should look up. There's a channel called Sailing Delos, Delos. I think you'd like the couple. They're really cool, and they
Yeah,
travel the world in their sailboat, and they've been doing it for a long time. They both exited the Matrix or whatever, their own way.
dude.
And
When you get out of the verbs, it helps so much. We just go
well,
to an Airbnb and I'm like, oh.
yeah, but I was going to say, like, so they travel like all over the world and they document the process, the cities they go in, excursions and
Oh,
stuff. But then they ended up having a baby, and they're raising the baby on the boat, and it's fucking cool.
that's ridiculously cool. And I'm slightly envious.
Yeah,
Maybe not the boat
they're
part.
fun.
I'd stay on land. I'm not a boat gal. Like for living, unless it's on the canals in Britain. Have you seen that? You could just live on these
Yeah,
long
yeah,
boats.
yeah. My uncle's really into that stuff. He likes to look at that. The long ones, yeah.
There's a longboat show. I don't know if he knows about it. He probably does. It's the most boring thing you could ever imagine, and I love it so hard to go to sleep to. It's just this dude documenting him on his longboat and opening the locks, closing the, and I fucking love it. I can't get enough
Yeah,
of it.
yeah. He
I
loves
watch
that
that
stuff.
shit
It's cool.
all day.
Or I could also live on one of those big ass catamaran boats that are like I like. It's fun to watch people sailing and doing that, but if I were to do it, I want to live on a boat where when I'm sleeping at night, I don't feel like a whole bunch of rocking and
I
stuff.
was fixing to say, if I live on a boat, it's docked, and I don't remember, like, because I don't know, I have a thing about the
But even
ocean.
docked, I think the size
Right, the
and the shape matters. So like a
100%.
catamaran, big ass catamaran that's like a 4-bedroom boat, you're probably not going to feel it move too much. I don't know. I haven't been on one,
I
but
wouldn't
a
think
sailboat,
so. Oh yeah, I'd fill up. But yeah, that 16-year-old girl that traveled around the world in a sailboat by herself.
dude.
True
My
Spirit on Netflix is like the fake version of the movie, but it's so good.
I think that you're
Like, what a
talking about,
badass.
unless there's another person that did the same thing. My uncle was also loves that story too.
Because she was 16 and
Yeah,
circumference the globe alone. She capsized. Her sail was under in the ocean
yeah,
12 times. And Jesus Christ flipped it back up and put her on top of the water. I don't know, but she survived it. And I'm like, the first time I would have been like, y'all come get me right the fuck now, because it just flipped upside down and I was under the waters 12
yeah.
times. I was under
It
the waters.
happened.
I saw fish. This shit ain't supposed to happen. But
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely inspiring. And that, if you want to feel like getting up and not being a deflated person, she is one to watch.
I
And I
really
can't
think
remember
the
her name.
only reason that anyone is deflated is because there's an old story in their mind or in their body.
And see, for me, shamanically, I'm like, well, you're just, some things, man cannot live on bread alone. If you're not living a spiritual life, whether in whatever way, you don't even have to call it spiritual. You could call it fla-di-da-di-da. I live a fla-di-da-di-da life, and I love it. You just look for the good and accept the best. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage
Well,
to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
it's worth noting in the moment to pair with the analytical train of thought. Like, there are spiritual aspects of it clearly, but even if you look at the greats of history, that's how they operated. When they would fail, it wasn't something to weaken them. It was like an opportunity to learn and grow, and that's how they look at it. And that's it. And it's like, the more you do that, the more your brain.
But a lot of them were also very spiritual. Albert Einstein.
A lot of them were, yeah, certainly.
And
with
it's,
good reason.
I know, and I think it's just spiritual. People think immediately means God, religion. And it's
Sure.
like, no, because that's what I thought. And I was like, I'm not going to walk around wearing weird shoes and have armpit hair.
Yeah.
I thought that was the extent of spirituality.
Yeah. There's a recent podcast I listened to with, Greg Braden. You know that guy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Lewis Howes interviewed him. I don't know if you know Lewis Howes or not, but it was fucking great interview.
Yeah. Greg's ridiculous. Like, the way that he just has so much knowledge.
In the last week, and Lewis did a good job of asking like good questions to help Greg Braden,
Good interviewer. Yeah.
The way that he went through all the stuff, it was like, yes, that's it.
Was it YouTube?
Yeah, YouTube. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna look that one up, because on YouTube I've been watching all these like polymer clay. I call it, instead of crafting, my crapping, because I have all this crap. But I've been watching all these shorts, like making stuff at home to spiritually bypass, so I don't have to go outside or meditate. But I finally did go outside and meditate, and now I feel so much better. How novel is that? Looky there. But yeah, I wanted to find some like content that was more, like that, to my speed.
Dude,
Are you late?
I love this one. I'm going to send it to you right now. I'll also put it in the show notes for this too, because I think you can do that. I think reference other people's stuff, or at least I'm saying that I'm going to do it. We'll see if it happens, but
We'll see. Look how cute.
Paste.
One of my baby plants.
So one last thought before we go to woo woo out.
Yeah,
I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this as kind of a cliffhanger, and maybe we can pick this idea up and talk more about it on the next episode. But I've recently been, because I am writing a book, and in that book,
me,
part you are. Fuck yeah,
me and my sister. Look.
beautiful. Pothead, I love it. That's great.
What's it
But
going to be
in
about?
it, I'm going down a deep road of the history of the idea of both marriage and traditional relationships.
Uh-huh.
And one thought that I had recently.
You can interview me.
Okay. One thought that I had recently was the idea of soulmate, right? And so, and I know now that like ChatGPT is not God, right? And sometimes when you ask it questions, it'll give you an answer, and you got to go, "Well, are you sure about that?" And then it might be something different.
I don't know what that is.
AI, ChatGPT.
See, I updated my phone, but it's not there. So.
Okay. So, well, let me just tell you that it's a fucking valuable tool. You just have to be mindful with how you use it. But that being said, I just curiously asked it. I just said, "Hey, where was the idea of soulmate first documented?" So I want to read. It gives a comprehensive thing, but I want to read the first part of it because it's kind of bananas to me, and maybe you've heard this before. All right.
Yeah, that it's really hard.
The idea of soulmate can be traced back to Plato's Symposium, written around 385 to 370 BCE. In this philosophical text, Plato presents a story through the character Aristophanes or something, who describes a mythological origin of love. Plato's Origin of Soulmates Symposium. Here's the breakdown, and then I want to see if you've heard this before or get your thoughts on it. Aristophanes, whatever, tells a story in which humans were originally four-legged, four-armed, and had two faces. These beings were powerful, and the gods, fearing their strength, split them in half as a punishment. After being divided, each wandered the earth searching for its lost counterpart, longing to be reunited. This concept forms the foundation of the modern idea of soulmates, that each person has a perfect match or other half somewhere in this world. That idea is bananas to me, but I think it's fictional though, right? That's a fictional story, or is
yeah. I mean, even
Plato and Socrates, but I haven't done like a lot of dialed-in research there.
incredibly intelligent doesn't mean that everything they said was fact. That's something that's one of those like no, but that's part of the great unknown. I believe in soulmates, but I do think that it's a thing. I don't think it's a thing as in like every single person has to have this one person or they don't have anyone. I think we could have a million jillion people to have great relationships with, but your soulmate is one that, because I personally believe that before we come in, we write out our story, we know who our soul group is, and maybe your husband this time was your son last time, whatever, but your group kind of stays together, and this is what we want to work on, this is where we want to grow, because it's like you end up being like a soulmate. For me, I see it as someone that's you love so much, but you're so different. You're so much the same, but different enough on like the big deep stuff that you have to work. Because marriage is already work. We've been together 15 years, but then when they're
so I actually have a relationship coach coming on my podcast who I've had on a couple times before, and she actually does have a pretty large following, and I like her perspective on a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
she is a relationship coach primarily focused on helping women in their relationships with men, right? I'm going to have her on, and I'm going to be devil's advocate and be like, I don't know, I think we've been conditioned to pick one. Now, not to take away from
we're animals. Marriage
not to take away from anyone who has a happy and fulfilling relationships and is doing stuff.
Yeah, but it's not because of the piece of paper you signed.
That's all good. But I just think about how much the model of our reality is molded through adolescence. And we get questions like, hey, did you meet someone yet? Well, you don't
you don't have kids?
Alone and blah, 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 blah. And
Says
it's like, the reality is you'll never be alone if you're actually mindful and you serve your community. You'll never be alone.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with anyone that it's totally part of the capitalistic. You need to have the white picket fence, the 2 cars, 2.5 kids. I think it's 100% that programming. Doesn't mean that marriage can't be beautiful and that relationship isn't beautiful, but the piece of paper doesn't dictate
Yeah.
why we're together, you know?
I had a talk with my friend Angel about this, and she was asking me like more specific perspective on it, I believe, in this conversation. And I was saying like, or like I think she was asking like, so you'll never be in a relationship or some kind of shit like that, right? And I was like, well, I'm not saying I'll never be in a relationship, but I do know that if I get in a relationship on the front end, I'm going to say, hey, you're cool, and this seems like fun, and I'm curious to see where it goes. But dude, any day I could be like, hey, I'm gonna go now. And
Right, but that's every relationship, boo.
but that's not how we've been unconsciously trained. You better work on your marriage. You got to work on it.
Right.
It's like,
Um,
dude, well, hey, if the fucking pieces don't fit, they don't fucking fit, right?
right. It's
I'm
different
not
when there's
saying
kids
I'm not
involved,
saying there isn't
but
saying that there isn't potential growth, opportunity in relationship where there might be a disconnect, and the disconnect really something deep. They both learn from it, they both grow, and
and
they.
that's what it is. But if it's like, oh, I'm getting beat on, no, yeah.
I think that the vast overwhelming percent of relationships that are out there, people are in them unconsciously because they do not want to be alone.
Do you know how many times I've told him, I'm like, I don't care. It's not about, saying I've been married for this long is not the badge of honor I want to have. I want to say I've been happy for this long. I'm not trying to say, oh, I never got a divorce. That's great. When was the last time you were happy? Tell me about that. That is not a badge of honor to me. It's being with one person who I have committed my life to and I have kids to. But like you said, doing that in a way in which everyone, you're not going to be happy 24/7 and sunshine out your butt, but you shouldn't be miserable. Basically agreeing with what you're saying. I don't think it should just be like, well, I'm married, so,
Yeah.
like it is what it is. Well, not really. And yeah, it's totally part of the programming to get married and have kids. But I don't think because ruling out relationships sounds like
I got a
me.
funny
It
little,
sounds like something I would do. It's like you're just,
funny little thing to paraphrase here, and I am paraphrasing the shit out of it, but it's Henry Coolidge,
yeah.
uh, president, right? And maybe we've talked about this before, but there's a story of him going somewhere with his wife, and they were touring like a farm or some shit, and the guy that was taking them on the tour was telling them about the activity of the hens and the chickens and the whatnot, right? And again, I don't know if I'm using all the right terms, but at one point he said these hens, because that's the male, I think, right? The hens,
Rooster.
the rooster. Okay, right. So the rooster, there you go. The rooster ejaculates basically, like, I don't know. I think he said like 80 times a day or some shit like that, right? And so Henry Coolidge,
Like just randomly?
well, mates,
Oh.
or whatever the fuck, right?
Wow.
Like, and again, paraphrasing. Henry Coolidge's wife turns to Henry and goes, "You hear that, Henry?" 80 times, right? Henry goes to the guy leading the thing, and he goes, "Is it the same hen or different hens?" And the guy goes, "Different hens."
Different.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the last bit of it is that there's, I think, again, paraphrasing, the closest primate civilization, whatever, the females mate with an average of 50 different men in their life over the course of their life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And
There's even animals that will mate with a bunch of different ones. Octopus can save the sperm and use the ones they want.
Yeah, I mean,
how crazy is that?
I just know that, God, so much can be resolved in stress around relationships. I mean, it's one thing if and I don't know the dynamics of your relationship, right? But I do know, because I know you both, that you are mindful and you do care, and you are on your own evolution journey. You're not just stuck in this cycle of shit that's never changing. You're on an evolution journey, right?
Yeah.
But most people in relationships are not. And they're
I
just
know that when I drive by a golf course and I'm like, why aren't you with your family for 8 hours a day? But it's okay.
Well, no, I mean, it's nothing against that, right? Like
I'm nothing against it. It's just, I'm saying usually like the people that I'll talk to, the wives are railing on their husbands and the husbands are, and it's like, okay, can we talk about like something happy or
what did we get in all the movies? That's like the breakaway scene of the women talking shit about the men and stuff. I mean, fuck, dude, we've been conditioned so deep. Thousand Ways Sunday. But anyhow, this has been amazing. Can you say one thing before we go, though, and then we'll talk later?
I can. Woo woo crew out.